name is Justin Stefan and I am 10 years old. I want to speak up to ask that you vote against Senate Bill 649. Right now I will tell you the story of how wireless radiation affects my life. We started to get familiar with the dangers of wireless radiation when I started taking French lessons at Mitchell Park Library. On the second floor where I took my lessons, there are 7 wireless routers on the ceiling and many people using wireless laptops. It was there that I felt like a volcano was erupting in my heart. My mom took me to the doctor and he did several tests on my heart. He said that everything was normal on my test, so he could not explain why I have my chest pain, but this happens every time I go to Mitchell Park Library and even sometimes at school where we have wireless routers in the classrooms. We need to stop SB 649 or more kids just like me will get affected. Thank you for listening.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So I started feeling really sick when I was 9 in 4th grade. At school, I would sometimes feel dizzy and my papers I was writing on would seem to move back and forth. At bedtime, I'd be scared to go to bed because once I lied down to sleep, I would get very, very nauseous and sometimes I would even vomit. I developed horrible anxiety and a rash on my face, which I sometimes still get when I'm around Wi-Fi too much. My family took me to at least 7 doctors that I can remember, maybe more, including Dornbecker Children's Hospital. Each doctor referred us to another doctor or diagnosed me with this or that and would give me some medicine, but none of them really helped much. For a whole year, I was ill and we couldn't figure out why. When my mom finally realized what was making me sick, she asked my school if they had Wi-Fi, and they replied, yes, Wi-Fi is available. So it turns out I was sitting right underneath the new Wi-Fi router they had installed. I switched schools to the only school in Eugene that doesn't have Wi-Fi, which is Waldorf, and this school only goes through 8th grade, and I'll be graduating this spring, so now we don't really know of anywhere I can go to high school next fall, because all of them have Wi-Fi. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you for your testimony.
It's almost impossible, in fact it is impossible, for a kid to grow up in America right now without constant exposure to screens. Not only are children addicted to smartphones, but the schools, public schools especially, are filled with laptops, tablets, and online homework. Why? Because Silicon Valley pushed that on our schools. They're profiting from it. You know what they don't want? That garbage in their own kids' schools. According to the New York Times, tech elites are keeping screens out of their children's schools and teaching them to play with real toys instead of digital ones. Why? Because they know screens are poison. They should know they make them. Tom Kirsting is a licensed psychotherapist, author of the book Disconnected, How to Reconnect Our Digitally Distracted Kids. Tom, I know that you remember very well, and maybe some of our viewers will too, it was only 5 or 6 years ago that all the dumb people, the fad adherents, were telling us the most important thing we could do was to put iPads in every school in America and our kids would magically get brilliant. This was a lie pushed by Apple, and they all believed it. What do we now know about that?
We now know that that is absolutely false. Something I've been lecturing about for 10 years. I've been going out there, stomping the ground, trying to get parents to really see what's happening, what this stuff is doing to kids' brains, how that is affecting their kids' emotions, why we have so much anxiety and depression, why the suicide rate is through the roof. And now you have the tech execs in Silicon Valley that are actually preventing their own children from using these devices. And when I saw that piece, I was thrilled to hear that, because maybe now, we can educate other parents that aren't as aware as these Silicon Valley tech execs are.
But, I mean, Philip Morris executives never gave Marlboros to their own kids.
Right.
So I guess this shouldn't surprise us. What surprises me is that none of the people selling this garbage to our children, marketing it to them, pushing it on them through their schools where they have to obey, are ever held accountable for what they've done. Why is that?
It's unbelievable. It's got to be. Must have something to do with behind-the-scenes lobbying and special interests and things of that nature. Now, these tech execs, if you read some articles on it, there's a large amount of students that go to the Waldorf schools out in Silicon Valley. And those schools do not allow any form of electronic devices. It's all paper and pen learning.
Good morning.
Morning, Nico.
Celebrating its 100th anniversary this year, the Waldorf teaching philosophy is used at more than 1,000 institutions in 91 countries, including 136 schools here in the U.S. The screen policy differs at each Waldorf school, but it's known for its holistic instructional style, which promotes artistic expression, experiential learning, and yes, limited technology use. For students at the Sacramento Waldorf School, screen time is highly discouraged at home, too. The lower school parent handbook recommends no media at home through 5th grade, and limited access accompanied by clearly defined family policies and monitoring for older children, stating none is the optimal condition for young children and less is better than more. In high school, computer use at Sacramento Waldorf School is restricted to just 6 desktops in one small lab and 20 MacBook Air laptops used in just a few classes. Mobile devices can be brought by high schoolers, who all sign a pledge to limit use to outside the classroom only. Tech in schools is big business, expected to hit $43 billion this year, with 46% of that growth happening in K through 12. So Apple, Google, and Microsoft may not be thrilled to know the Waldorf approach represents a growing trend in Silicon Valley, where low-tech education is becoming increasingly popular among parents who are apprehensive of the devices they themselves helped to invent. The private Waldorf School of the Peninsula, which has campuses in Los Altos and Mountain View, is highly sought after. 3/4 of the students' parents there have a strong high-tech connection. In fact, many big names in tech, like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, gained notoriety for the strict bounds they placed on device usage in their homes. Gates reportedly didn't let his kids get phones until age 14, and Jobs didn't let his kids use iPads.
And I think in one of them, 70% of the students in one of those schools are the sons and daughters of Silicon Valley tech execs. So they know things that the average parent out there doesn't know, and I'm glad we're having this discussion right now.
But they sell the products anyway.
They sell
and
them
they
anyway.
don't alert the rest of us. And school district after bovine school district continues to believe that technology is the key to education, and they never warn anybody about the threat that they clearly perceive.
Right, and I work at a school during the day for 22 years in addition to being a psychotherapist. And the biggest thing that we're trying to get a handle on is the mental and emotional well-being of our children.
Yes.
So 23 years ago, it was really more about education. You'd have a school counselor that would help kids with their schedules. Now it's part mental health and part education under the public school umbrella.
How many, since this is your world, how many educators do you run into who really understand the magnitude, the imminence of this threat to kids from technology?
The educators that I run into, that I speak with, they know it anecdotally because they see it, firsthand in front of them every day. But what they need to do is read more. Like my book really underscores everything with statistics to back it. We need to get parents out there hearing experts like myself discuss the ramifications, not just mental health, but also the family system. When you look at families nowadays, it's sort of, I liken it like this. An average family of 4 is really more like 4 individuals living a solitary life under the same roof staring at a screen.
Exactly. But by the way, people can't read anymore because their brains have been trained to read 50 words at a time by the iPhone. Their brains have been destroyed. All of ours have been.
Yep.
We're going to look back on this moment and say, I can't believe we were so passive in the face of something
Absolutely.
that was killing us.
You better believe
Tom,
it.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Tucker.
I'm already recording. You sure this ain't gonna kill us, right? This tower would come down if he could start the damn thing. That's right. No, it's going that way, some way. We left that. What's happened? Can't tell. Fuck's that. We'll have that as well. We'll take that and we'll take that. Take both of them.
Right guys, this is just going to be a little how-to. So we've already discussed the socket set. Oh, it's actually quite difficult with one hand. Didn't think it through. Right, so undo your door, lift it up and out. Don't worry about the yellow and green wire, that's just the earth wire, right. So it's sort of roughly the same with near enough all of these fuse boxes, they're all pretty much the same. Let me just put me down 2 seconds while I get a screwdriver.
That was pretty cool. I thought that something was gonna like break in half halfway down. It went straight like a tree.
Right, so Phillips screwdriver is what you need. So we take that there, we unscrew it, and then we just flip that down. If it was dark and the light was on, then that would make it turn off. Now I'm going to go one step, throw that in the bush over there. Don't really want to take it home. Right, so that's dead. And essentially the only dangerous part is this exposed wire down here. Okay, so that wire there, you do not want to go anywhere near. Anything upwards is perfectly fine to destroy because it's all dead. And so I quickly grab my voltage tester. And again, difficult with one hand trying to film. So what we do now is hopefully, so brown wire is your live, which will be red. Put that in the terminal there. Your blue wire is neutral, which will be black, so you put that on there. Boom, boom, on both terminals. Oh, slipped off there. Right. Oh, got it the wrong way around. There you go, look, my voltage tester is not lighting up at all. So it's telling me that that is dead. No voltage going through that whatsoever. So that's good. So that's how I check, but obviously not everyone's got a voltage tester. However, when the fuse is taken out, it usually means that it's all dead. So, like I said, now that I've checked that that's all dead, I've got a nice pair of snippers from my previous job, so I know that I can just start snipping away, it's no issue. I suppose realistically the one I want to be getting at most is this one here, and really I want to be trying to get that as far up as possible because that's actually feeding the LED light, and that's what we don't want. And again, I'm going to go one step further than a few people might go. And what I'm going to do is use my grips to give that a good old whack, so that's fucked as well. There you go, that's how that's done. That hurt, chucked on my thumb. One love guys, one love.
I said, 5G, the colligated signals in air, is actually a weapons program. The LED deployment is a program called soft kill. These are weapons deployments. This is not street lighting at all.
They really do radar map their environment. If you can receive a data packet, if you can receive a text, they know where you are down to within like 3 feet. If you're in the middle of downtown, 40 stories up in somebody's office in the middle of a building, they can literally bounce your data packets off of other buildings to get them to you.
So these systems, when they point at you, and remember they're directional phased array antennas, they can single you out for behavioral changes. They can literally change your personality in a sense by beaming you with these weapons, and they know where you are.
So it's literally directed energy weapons, the equivalent of modern shock therapy.
Yeah, well, exactly, except it's invisible, but you're telling them where you are by carrying your device around. So you're giving them a target of where to beam the phased array antennas, and then they can decide how much power to put into that signal, how tight the beam is, or how wide the beam is. They can decide how many antennas to beam you with simultaneously if they really want to fry your brain.
All right, Ian Fergeson, I want him to be able to pop in here too. Mike Adams is coming up bottom of the hour. He's an engineer. Mark STEELE worked in classified areas with weaponized beams of microwaves, radiation, particle beams, all this stuff. SaveUsNow.org.uk. His audio is a little hammered. We'll see if we were able to fix that during the break. But bottom line, as you're pointing out under UK laws and others, this is way more powerful than it's supposed to be. There's equipment built into this that isn't supposed to be there, and only an engineer can see this. This has been going on for a long time. Again, I was told in 1996 that, look at the Telecommunications Act, these engineers said. They said they've passed it. By 2000, all cell phones will be GPS targeted, and they'll all be able to be remotely accessed and listen to you, and they'll be called smartphones. And I was saying all this because engineers were telling me. Well, now it's all ubiquitous. I'm telling people something they already know. The sky's blue. But you're laying out the next wave of this. Is that fair to say, Mark STEELE?
Absolutely. The whole deployment is a weapon system. The whole 5G is a weapon system. I can explain that. 5G antenna, one of the technical parameters is actually the focus of energy in air. So where a telecommunications transmitter irradiates air away from the person, away from the antenna, it's called inverse square law. A 5G antenna, using either offset or dielectric lens, actually focus the signal, so a little bit more like a laser. So it's a totally opposite to a normal telecommunications. That's 1G, 2G,
and that's
3G,
why it does burst. Explain that. So I was right looking at this. They're all thinking it's low power because what's coming off the surface is low power, but it's being focused like a particle beam, is what you're saying?
You can focus it very much. The best way to explain it's like layman's terms. However, this beam actually skitters. It's theoretical because nobody can see them, so it's a theoretical beam, and it skitters a bit like lightning. If you could see a lightning strike, obviously
but if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. You know, like the other dimensions and our little friends. But of course, it is scientific. It is there. It does exist.
Absolutely. Well, they've been used as weapon systems for a number of years. The first weapon system was called Mammoth. It was actually the Germans used it during the Second World War. It was a radar target acquiring piece of equipment to identify Allied aircraft. A number of Allied aircraft crews suffered significant detrimental health effects, burning their eyes, causing significant harm. That was hidden. That was the hidden history of, obviously during the war, a lot of the stuff's classified, so that was hidden information, but it showed that the Germans were well ahead with being able to use offset phased signals to punch out what's called a beam wave and actually use it as radar. But those beam waves, pointed beam waves, are extremely toxic. One of the reasons why a lot of servicemen coming back from battle zones suffering PTSD, they've actually got a brain injury. Nobody's telling them they've been probably near some weapons platform that used phase offset signals for radar, battlefield interrogation. They've been somewhere near it, and because it travels with ease through the head and the rest of the body, because these are sub-gigahertz. One of the things I want to dispel in relation to 5G, everybody talks about the 30 gigahertz to the 300. 5G currently is operating in the sub-gigahertz range. It is more dangerous. It's a significantly more dangerous part of the spectrum than some of the higher frequencies. The higher frequencies don't travel very well through brickwork and concrete. Sub-gigahertz travels through it with ease, and that's the reason it's 3D urban radar. That's why it operates in the sub-gigahertz.
And you're showing your torpedo submarine knowledge there exactly, because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's just like through water or just like through rock is the same thing, that it's a solid field instead of a long wave, so it pushes through the rock or through the water or through the structure. So they're saying it's weak, but you're saying it has even greater penetration power.
Absolutely. Sub-gigahertz that can travel through 30 foot of reinforced concrete, and that's why they're using it. The antennas, like you saw, the ones that broke down, have got a footprint 15 kilometers in the urban environment. We have 31,875 of those transmitters in a very, very small area, a place called Gateshead. Gateshead was the test center, the epicenter, and it's not called Gatehead. It's the original name, Gatehead. I would suggest people have a look at it. It actually has the Angel of the North. The Angel of the North is Moloch. It's not being tested in Gateshead for any other reason. It has some links to some devilish plot, some devilish scheme. I mean, I know we're talking about God and the devil, but believers, I'm pretty sure the reason why I'm here is to fight against this, because unfortunately for Gateshead Council, the emblem is the goat head, another satanic sign. Well, unfortunately, I live in Gateshead, and I am an expert in this particular field, and they've deployed the equipment on my countrymen, women, and children. And not only that,
let's explain. It's being tested. The town. We'll pull it up when we come back. I want to get the take here from Ian Fergeson. Really scary hearing this information. What's your view on this?
No, actually, Mark was the one that clued me in on sub-gigahertz in the beginning, and I should have picked it up in my own training. The sub-gigahertz frequencies, 600, 700, 850, these are ground-following waves, all right? Well, at the advent of 3G, when we were able to receive data packets, the sub-gigahertz frequencies allow the wireless internet service providers to triangulate your geolocation, all right? So they really do radar map their environment. If you can receive a data packet, if you can receive a text, they know where you are down to within like 3 feet. If you're in the middle of downtown, 40 stories up in somebody's office in the middle of a building, they can literally bounce your data packets off of other buildings to get them to you. And that's where the sub-gigahertz frequencies gives them their radar mapping capabilities. They know what's moving on the ground. With the advent of 5G, it becomes much more invasive than that. They'll know when you move your couch around inside your house. Now, we know from Snowden and the WikiLeaks Vault 7 stuff that they've got access to all of the operating systems as is. Your Android, your iOS, Windows, all of it. The government's already got listening capabilities.
Well, remember the Batman movie 10 years ago or longer, I forget which one, where they activate everybody's cell phones to create sonar. Well, that's actually real. They actually do that.
Yeah, that's not far off from reality, especially with the advent of 5G. It's going to give them just a godlike surveillance capability over everyone.
Well, I was told this by two different engineers, and one of them's son approached me later and said, you know, my dad held some of the patents. He was killed after he gave me that info. I mean, that's how scary all this is. And they were telling me all this stuff way back then. I was like, what are you talking about? It's crazy. And why do you get sunglasses? To protect your eyes from solar radiation so you don't get cataracts. But what have they told you? Oh, the sun can't hurt you. So just go out and lay out, you know, in the middle of the summer in August for 10 hours and you'll die.
In the future, every square inch of every city will be alive with intelligence. Because every street and every building will have a network of microcomputers built right into them. Dr. Chris Piester calls it smart dust.
A smart dust particle, or mote, is a wireless sensor with sensing, computation, communication, and power in one package.
These all-in-one microcomputers will be small, very small,
The size of a mote today is about the size of a grain of rice. And we've shown that we can make the circuitry small enough and light enough that eventually it will be possible to make things that are on a sub-millimeter size scale.
Tiny specks of computer smart dust will form a vast invisible network that can help manage the infrastructure of even the largest city.
Smart cities in the future will take this low-power, inexpensive, small technology and basically distribute it everywhere.
These tiny computers record information about their surroundings, information they can send to other computers or to you. Smart dust on the tracks will monitor your commuter train so you know if it's running late. Potholes will be able to report themselves and warn your car, and you'll never have to wait for a radio traffic report again.
They're monitoring the flow of traffic and giving you alerts about what route is the right way to go to keep the traffic moving.
Bridges will get a coating of smart dust particles that can warn us when they detect stress fractures, helping avoid deadly collapses. But smart dust will also allow buildings and streets to recognize you and respond accordingly.
I think increasingly, the environment will respond to who we are and adapt in consequence.
The city will know where you are if you want it to.
Your workplace will know you. Smart dust at the entrance will boot up your computer. And smart dust embedded in the elevator doors will automatically ring your floor.
Smart dust is going to sense the environment and allow us to improve the way that we live our lives.
No matter how we live in the future city, it will be radically different.
This is going to eviscerate microbial DNA inside human beings, which is our effective operating system, number one. So it may not impact human DNA in laboratory experiments right now, and they're saying it doesn't impact human DNA. But given that human DNA is less than 1% of the cellular DNA in the human body, the rest of the cellular DNA is microbial, and we know that this will eviscerate microbial DNA. So we're talking about a takedown of the operating system of human beings.
Exactly. I couldn't have put it better myself.
So the connection between chemtrails and 5G.
It's all interconnected. The metallized particulates, that would allow the 5G phased array, so basically the radar, that would allow it to be able to identify you, so it can watch you, it can identify you in your own home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
For the last X amount of years, we've been through chemtrailing, and that is now the cat is out of the box. We've had these nanoparticulates raining down on humanity for years now, impregnating our bodies, by best accounts staying inside our bodies. Those nanoparticulates, what you're saying, are building up a kind of a phosphorescence glow capability so that we can be flagged up in our homes, behind concrete and steel, inside bunkers, in the basement, doesn't matter where you are. The 5G will be able to now triangulate, map and read you, because you as a living being are impregnated with these nanoparticulates, which are acting as a kind of transmission and reception technology.
It's exactly, absolutely exactly.
Activist whistleblower Mark STEELE, very accredited fella, worked in the weaponized systems, and he recognizes it out now in the town where he lives in England. And we've got also Ian Fergeson, who puts in the 5G, who's a well-known individual. Quantifying 5G and then the fight against it, and the fact that some countries have banned it. In fact, the inventor of it has banned it, and what it really is, Mike, is you're always good for the 35,000-foot view and the zooming in view as well.
Radiological weapons, you might say, or radio electromagnetic weapons, they have neuropsychiatric effects, Alex. So we're talking about, in this study published in Environmental Research, Wi-Fi is an important threat to human health. This study specifically cites 35 different neurological and neuropsychiatric effects, which means these are mind-altering weapon arrays that are installed in your neighborhood. They catalog 17 psychological disorders, 4 behavioral changes. So these systems, when they point at you, and remember they're directional phased array antennas, they can single you out for behavioral changes. They can literally change your personality in a sense by beaming you with these weapons, and they know where you are.
So it's literally directed energy weapons, the equivalent of modern shock therapy.
Yeah, well, exactly, except it's invisible, but you're telling them where you are by carrying your device around. So you're giving them a target of where to beam the phased array antennas, and then they can decide how much power to put into that signal, how tight the beam is, or how wide the beam is. They can decide how many antennas to beam you with simultaneously if they really want to fry your brain. We're talking about chromosomal aberrations, DNA damage, cancer, endocrine system changes, autonomic nervous system effects, as well as the production of what's called peroxynitrites. These are molecules that poison your body from the inside, and the cell membranes, as one of your guests mentioned before, the cell membranes become more permeable due to what's called voltage-gated ion channels. When the voltage penetrates the skin, it changes the permeability of your cell structure, causing calcium poisoning to penetrate your cells, and you get poisoned with calcium, which is a beneficial mineral when it's in the right balance, but if you get too much in your cells, it poisons you from the inside. So, Alex, this is a weapon system. It kills you from the inside, and it alters your mind, and it alters your personality.
And that's not counting the cell phones and the screens and the flicker rates and the destruction of IQ, the early onset of neurological disorders associated with TV, major studies. I mean, all of this is killing us. I mean, how do we stop this? And who's behind it? And what's the end game?
The end game is full biological destruction. Every biological cell on the planet will be destroyed by 5G. Now, I know that sounds unbelievable. People have to be mindful. The LED is part of the 5G weapons deployment. It's called soft kill. Right? The program was called soft kill. The pulse modulation, the dangers of LED, they're extremely toxic. They're retinal and retina cell toxic. But where the 5G, the sub-gigahertz, you can't get away from it, where at least you can hide in your building from the LED streetlights, which are toxic. What you can't hide from is that 5G sub-gigahertz, because it can find you, it can target aquarium. As Mike said before, very interesting point, but they can actually see you because of the nanoparticulates, the aluminium nanoparticulates that actually enter your body. I can actually see you in your room, so I can 3D map you once I actually understand what your characteristics are. You'll see here on this video where the light has been increased. This is in an Asian country. That's part of the weapons program. It's part of the UN Resilient Cities Agenda plan.
And we've got to get you back on, because I know you're a great engineer. I'd like to send you an external mic, or there's a lot of noise, I guess, in your laboratory. I can hear a lot of whizzing and buzzing. But you're absolutely right, and these smart cities are literal grids of control, and they're just rolling it in, whereas we slowly cook, like the frog literally in the pot being boiled by the heat, we just roll over and die.
Well, one of the key vectors, of course, of the depopulation agenda that's being pushed by globalists right now is infertility. They consider that a soft kill, which is easier for them than the hard kill methods that they're also rolling out. But soft kill, infertility, is one of the side effects of 5G exposure and EMF exposure. Again, back to the study I cited earlier, it's proven, this EMF exposure is proven to lower testicular size. Literally, to put it bluntly, 5G networks shrink your balls. And they also change testicular epithelial structure, and they decrease spermatogenesis, which is the creation of sperm in the testes. So we're talking about lowered sperm levels, which are already a problem due to chemical exposure, massive infertility, also combined with the overlay of abortion and
where do you keep that new 5G cell phone? Right in your pocket, perfect to boil the huevos.
But when you shrink the testes and you reduce the function of the testes, you also reduce the manhood, the actual hormones that make men men. Many of them are produced right there in the testes.
And we know there's a war on men, and so they go, oh, you don't feel manly? Well, here, we'll take even more female hormones, and let's just cut that pesky thing off.
It's the feminization and the weaponization combined. So that's the thing.
And it's all integrated, and then as we mutate, if you go, hey, you're being mutated, they go, don't stop my beautiful transformation, Omega Man, and they throw the spear into your heart.
And remember, they can selectively target individuals. So previously, under 4G and 3G networks, those were omnidirectional signals, so they could not pick out specific individuals. I'm sure your other guests will confirm this. 5G uses directional, narrowly focused beams, so they can specifically target individuals with these effects, different frequencies and different power levels.
And that's what Mark STEELE specifically as an engineer is opening up and showing, just added stuff, putting these street lights. Mark, how do we stop it? What's the end game of these people?
Look, I can't stress it enough. I've got thousands of followers, got thousands of friends. You must share these videos. We've got to get this information out to the wider group, all right? So we've got mass fires in Australia, all appertaining to microwave radiation in air, all right? So where the fires are, large transmitters, they've been using the weather modification system to stop rain from dropping on Australia. They've been working up to this for quite a number of years, all right? This is the whole hell on earth.
Yeah, go ahead. How far in do we have to come to get to England? Stay back. Well, I'm in on the track, mate. How far in? About 3K. But it's too dangerous here. Hold back.
Last night, shortly before 6 p.m, we had reports of a truck that had been blown over by a wind event at the fire ground down near Jingellic, near the Victorian border. As it turns out, not only did a truck get blown over, but another command vehicle in the same extraordinary weather event was also blown over. Tragically, on that truck, one of our firefighters, a much loved and respected local firefighter from down near the Holbrook Colcan area in the Southern Border team, tragically lost his life.
You're in the building? Go 37, go 37. Yeah, probably about that building going over. Natural Park, please. Are you guys okay?
Good evening. Homes, caravan parks and sporting fields have all been inundated and cars swept away in flash flooding as a megastorm dumped hundreds of millimetres of rain across the southeast overnight. Rising water levels shut down the M1 for hours, causing traffic chaos. Theme parks too closed for the day, and there could be more rain on the way.
Our crazy, dangerous weather took another wild turn today. A string of powerful storm cells unleashing big hail and bursts of damaging wind. Canberra took a beating. Cars were smashed and buildings damaged by the hail. The city coated in white. Sydney has also been hit, and there's more on the way.
From one extreme to another. Humongous hailstones hammering down at Parliament House, smothering the Senate courtyard.
It was a day when it seemed like our red centre was on the move. A massive dust storm barrelling across the state. Dubbo and Parkes, just two regional centres, swamped by a wave hundreds of metres high.
Another sped-up view captured by a local in Parkes. And this time, it looked like a bomb had gone off.
I feel like we're in an episode of Twister.
The slow-moving wall stretched more than 300 kilometres. Forbes in the south, through Parkes, Dubbo and to Nyngan in the north. In Dubbo, the sight was enough to scare the wits out of a flock of birds. The main highway into Nyngan, looking more like a road trip to Mars. The driver wisely pulling over, while another pushed their luck, disappearing into a dark red void. The dust storm was created by strong winds, dry soil, an unstable atmosphere with low moisture. A major thunderstorm created the powerful gusts. At 7:42 last night, winds were recorded at 107 kilometres per hour at Dubbo.
It's coming to a city near you. All right, it's not going to be in the bush. It's not going to be in the woodland. It's going to be in a city. They'll burn your city to the ground, the way they burned Grenfell Tower to the ground, the way they burned Paradise to the ground, the way they set fire to 5 cities in South Korea. This is 5G. These are very powerful transmitters, hundreds of thousands of times more powerful than a telecommunications system. These are beam waves, and they're sub-gigahertz beam waves, so they travel into concrete and the brickwork, and they break down the fabric of the building so it gets ready to gas off. As you ignite it, boom, there's your fire. That's why Grenfell Tower, and that's why the trolls don't like anything I've got to say. They don't want you to know that the 5G's in the streetlights outside your home. They don't want you to know that it's actually in all your smart devices, your smart equipment. They don't want you to know that it's part of autonomous car. This is all part of a kill grid plan. It's all part of an agenda to kill you. They don't like that either, alright? They see I'm working for the government, telling you you're going to be murdered by them. The plans to kill 55 million in the UK alone by 2025. That's their plan. It's not true. It's not true. It's going to happen. They're going to kill everybody. This is not about leaving 14 million left to fight back. This is about killing everybody. Alright? They've already killed all the pollinators, or near killed all the pollinators. But we've got a problem on their hands. We are a problem on their hands. We're too early. They didn't think, they didn't counter somebody like me. They didn't think that the test bed in the northeast by Gateshead Council, a crime, would be discovered. So the test, right, the fact they set up their own funeral directors to capitalise on the deaths and the increase in deaths and the 23% increase in stroke we had from 2014 to 16, it's significantly higher than that now. We just had a report of a massive morgue being built in the area. We're getting confirmation of that now. These are criminals. Alright, they've got the intention to harm you. Now, I'm not saying that they know, because they're as bad as the trolls. There's nothing in here. It's just wood. There's nothing in there. Can't think for themselves. What's actually going on, right? It's beyond their comprehension. They just do as your tool merchants, button polishers, do as your tool merchants and taking very large salaries. But this is going to kill, en masse, billions of people across the world. The plans to kill over 6 billion across the world. It's happening now. We're seeing it in Australia. The numbers are being underreported, the people that are dying. Wake up your number. If you've got to shake them by the collar, wake them up. This is real. People are going to die. People are dying, will die, and they're going to start dying significant numbers. I'm talking to people in the Gateshead area now, getting cancers, neurological disorders, children dying, children bleeding. Gateshead Council are currently removing the weapons system from the streetlights. The massive cover-up. It's because we're too early. And there's too many people asking too many awkward questions about the illnesses they've developed, and they're starting to ask their doctors, so what they're trying to do is cover it up. But it's not happening where you are, you're just getting it. Wake up, wake your number up, get involved. There's no point running away from it, you'll die. You've got to fight back. We are the resistance. You're the resistance. Wake up your number.